So Brighton, I'm so thrilled you're here.
I'm thrilled to be here.
Why Encircle? Why does Enso keep showing up saying, we want to help, we want to support, we're here, we want to do a pride ring, we want to do a bracelet?
I think to tell the full story, we got to go way back. And I was 5 years old. No, I'm just kidding. We won't go that far back. But when Enso started, it's unique for a lot of reasons. So for those that aren't aware, I'm one of the co-founders of Enso Rings. We make premium silicone jewelry. And my partner and I, we've been friends since we were little kids. And he's such a lovely soul. And we were at a different stage in life that when we started this organization, we were able to do it from what we felt like would be the most virtuous, or at least the most noble ideas we could come up with, because it wasn't about the money. So in many ways, it's like we're structured as a nonprofit in terms of mission, and our mission was to be a force for good. And then we looked at ways, with my background in entrepreneurship and marketing, how could we build an economic model to support that? Because I don't have experience with nonprofits, and so I knew we'd have to fund it ourselves. Enter stage left, Enso. And it was just so beautiful to be able to structure an organization truly from that frame of mind. And for a lot of people, it might seem subtle, because you'll hear a lot of organizations throw in, like, we're a force for good, we're doing good things. They might be. It's for us, everything started there. And so if we couldn't build an economic engine to wrap around that to fund it ourselves, we'd have to pass on projects, and we did. And so fortunately, it just took off. And starting from there, we thought, well, when we started attracting people, it became an extension of Aaron and myself. And so our values became Enso's values. So Aaron and my values were Enso's values. And our entire lives have been centered around this really central concept and universal in nature in the human experience around first learning to love yourself and then love others. And that's where everything begins. And so as a result, we have two values at Enso. It's to love yourself and to love others. And that's it. And so we talk about ways to do that and elaborate on that in the workplace, but I intentionally don't try and draw these hard lines in the sand that when you're here, this is your work life, and when you're there, that's your home life, your spiritual life. Like, the line should be blurred. That's the human experience. And I often talk about this every time we have our stand-up meetings where the whole company is there. We've got about 100 employees in Lehi, Utah, which is tons of fun. And we actually we make these rings by hand and the bracelets. These are real people in the community as well that worked on the projects. And our creative director who designed the products is also in the community and did everything from start to finish. Everything is so authentic and so important. And so coming from that frame of mind, we've attracted the most beautiful individuals, and it's opened doors in ways unlike anything I've ever seen. So even like our senior management team, where a lot of them would take a pay cut to come here because they're at stages in their careers where money's on the list, but it's not at the top of the list anymore. And so it's just so beautiful because we're all there because we want to be there. Like, together we can create something very special. And I get emotional because this is my family. I see these people every day. And it's unlike any other organization I've been a part of or have created. And it's palpable. And when you go there, you feel it and you hear it. And we'll frequently survey employees to see like what they're feeling. And it's unanimous across the board. Our attrition's like zero. It's
amazing.
Wild for years.
At a time when people are having a hard time hiring and retaining employees. So what are you doing day to day that is showing people your value, you're part of this? This is what creates that?
Because we mean it, we live it, and we believe it, and we instill it, and we cultivate it. So within the walls, to have values like love yourself and love others, this is now a place where we have differences, but it's like a fam that lives together. We may not see eye to eye on everything, but I celebrate you still. It's not about acceptance even. Somehow that has an air of judgment to it. It's like, I love that, and I live differently, and you love that about me, and we can have a great time together, and we also have a job to do. We've got some awesome products we got to make so that we can continue funding this mission to be a force for good, and it creates this environment where people feel safe to really like explore what that means in the human experience, to love yourself and love others. And I'm reminded of this one moment where we were interviewing for a role, and someone came up to me in customer care, and they're like, "Hey, do you know the new person? Are they gay?" And I was like, "What? What's that got to do with anything?" Like, well, I've been noticing, looking around, he was gay, by the way. And he's like, I've been noticing and looking around, I think like more than 50% of our staff is gay, so you probably need to maintain that. So maybe you should check. If we were dying, I mean, it's a joke, of course, we're having fun with it. But that, especially in a conservative culture, like where we are in Lehigh, Utah, it's a safe place. And people know that. And so they can come and grow and evolve and explore their human experience and not be judged, but be celebrated. And that's unique. So everything stems from that. Whatever we talk about when it's Enso, whenever I'm talking in public or to groups, media, that's what Enso's about, because we have to start there. Because then you talk about the crazy success that Enso's had. And in just a few short years, we've sold over 4 million rings in over 150 countries. And the list goes on and on. We were on Shark Tank. We had all the, featured on the Inc. 5000 list, all these things. And well, how did you do that? It's like, it doesn't make sense. It's not like this equation where our values, our integrity, it's do the right thing. It's like, it's so simple. And then we actually live it. And so now for us, it's this time of life where how can we take what's inside the walls of Enso and start sharing that more with people outside? And causes and what's important in the LGBTQ plus community has always been close to me with friends and family, and even more so now with people that are very dear to me in the trans community, which has been it's so unusual, unlike any other social movement I've ever seen. As you know, it's not the advocates, the proponents, and the people in the community necessarily advocating for it. It's the parents. And when you see maybe someone that has like such conservative views, but if you told me I can accept you even though I know we don't believe the same thing, or I can reject you, and 8 out of 10 times when you walk out that door, I will never see you again, and you'll probably take your life. I don't know what parent would choose the alternative. What parent would choose the latter of those, and yet that's what's happening. And so I love that. Like some of the stuff we've been to together and like the events you've hosted, you've got these ultra conservative people, pastors, ministry, like famous athletes and movers and shakers of industry that are known for being so conservative or even religious. And they're up there at the stand and in front of the microphone saying, we have to do something about this. And if you know them personally, like we know a lot of these people, that's because that's the option. If I don't, I'm going to lose my child. And in my life, it makes me really emotional, as you can tell, because I've been on both sides of that coin, unfortunately. And so it's something that's very important to me, and it always has been. And when we started talking about doing something to help the community and the Pride community in particular, I was very clear that if really we were going to partner with someone, they would absolutely have to be someone that I loved and that embraced our values and what's important to us. And what's fun is, I think it was around 2016, 17, we have a mutual friend, and he wanted to introduce me, and it wasn't like good timing. And then I remember we spoke briefly, and then I went to a dinner at your house.
Yep.
And that was one of the most life-changing experiences of my life. And I walked away thinking, these are our partners. These are the people that we'll do it with. And so there's no question in my mind, because a big influence in my life was my Nana. I was raised by a psychologist. I went more the entrepreneurial route, but she kind of became more of a mystic and a progressive kind of in psychology. She had her master's and taught as a professor. But by the end of her life, she would share concepts like this. She'd call me Bright One.
Oh,
Bright
that's
One.
nice.
Yeah. She said, do you know why the world's round? And this is when I'm a child. Because love has no edges. It has to be. There are no sides to love. And so the moment when I heard no sides, only love, I just wept, because that's what Nana would teach. And so
I love that.
I've never shared that with you.
No, you haven't.
Yeah, but that's why we chose Encircle. This is a match made in heaven. And we really love you guys and everything you're doing. And we have a platform, and it's taken a lot of effort from a lot of people, and I couldn't think of a better cause and better people to share my platform with. My platform has been building businesses and organizations and then utilizing those to make a difference in the world. And so I couldn't think of a better cause or people to share that with than you and Encircle, and that's why we chose you.
Wow. Thank you. And that means so much. And you're one of those people that when I talk to you, you feel your heart, your soul, and you know that when you say Enso's about loving yourself and loving others, you mean that, and you really feel like you feel it from you. So I want to ask you a question on that, because you sparked a lot of ideas in my mind. At Encircle, I think that is what these youth and young adults are struggling with most of all, is loving themselves. I probably have as much privilege in the world as most people or anyone, and one of the hardest things I have is showing up every day feeling good enough. And I look at these young people and think, how are they doing it when they have all this noise around them telling them they're wrong, or even debating if they're okay? And so for me, at Encircle, we want these kids to learn how to really know they are perfect just as they are, and don't listen to that noise. But how do you really instill that and consistently show up in life when our legislators debating their worth?
There are a lot of things to unpack in that, but to try and distill it down to its core, really core tenets: loving yourself and loving others, regardless of context. The way I break it down, it's in how you think about yourself, how you feel about yourself, and how you treat yourself. Because it's difficult in the short time we have today to really break that down, but I will often have a one-on-one with someone who's struggling with something. And it spans the gamut. Your struggling doesn't have to be more or less than the teen who's struggling to find identity. It's not even about that. You're both struggling to love yourself in those instances and circumstances. And your paths will both be different. So it's convenient sometimes to do this broad stroke generalization about like, well, here's what you do, buddy. Youth, just love yourself more. Go say 5 things positive about yourself in the mirror and you'll feel great. It doesn't work. That's the beauty of the human experience. We are all individually so different and bring such a beautiful palette to the colors of life for everybody. And it takes this individualized path that you can know for you. That's the most important thing that my parents and my Nana, who had a huge influence in my life, instilled in me. You can know for you. It all starts there. Get in the driver's seat. So if there's one action you can take, start there. And if you feel like you're there, but you're still wrestling with it, whatever your version of that is, whether it's about image, whether it's about the thoughts, I've got this nasty person that I just loathe. Why do I hear my thoughts like that? About my personal image, the way I see myself. Dude, you can do it. I've seen all this inspo on Instagram today. Hell yeah, dude. I'm going to go work out. I'm going to be so ripped. It's going to be awesome. But I'm not going to go to the gym. Well, you're not treating yourself that way either, if that's what you want. And we all get to choose that. You can know for you, and you always have a choice. That's hard to hear sometimes. That's why I wear these glasses. People ask about these all the time, because even in the lowest of lows, the most abysmal circumstances, we don't always get to choose what we see, but we do get to choose the way we see it. So for me, why not look through hard eyes?
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
And that applies to anything. And I also feel so privileged and lucky and fortunate to have the life that I have. But a book that really changed my life was Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. His version of what I just shared, it's his version, but essentially he's sharing a similar message. You have to have something to live for. It's got to be something. And arguably the most abysmal human conditions any of us could ever have And yet he's choosing to see it through a lens that he can survive through. And for those that don't know, the internment camps in World War II. And it's the most abysmal circumstances. I don't know that he would say he was ever happy. This is not a happy situation. Happiness is fleeting, it's ephemeral. But there was this underlying, joyful understanding of love that allowed him to survive that and really get through that with a solid foundation that carried him out through the rest of his life. We all have our own version of that.
Right.
And so we don't get to choose the things we see sometimes. But living in Western culture and around where we do, you do get to choose that a lot. Yeah. Dude, you're not a victim of anything in this circumstance. And sometimes it's easy to get wrapped up into, yeah, but I am a victim. I'm not discounting those situations. There are plenty of those as well. It's very difficult. But that's how I would answer your question. Succinctly, too late. I've already been verbose and on this soapbox. But you're in the driver's seat, and you can know for you, and you always have a choice.
I love that you talk about your Nana. I had a grandma. I called her Granny Mert.
Mm-hmm.
She was married to Waldo, Mert and Waldo. They were farmers. And, my grandma was like this very simple person, had a poor education, but she loved me and saw me. And she died when I was only 15. But my brother and my sister and I, who are her only grandkids, say we still think of her almost every day. And you go, why is that? But she left, I think, imprinted on our hearts this: we are loved and perfect just as we are. And that was what was special about her, is that unconditional love. And she was also someone who should love us. That's why, I think part of why families are so important at Encircle is because there is something about those people who are our people to love us, loving us. And you talked about transgender kids. I see parents come here every Wednesday who have transgender kids. The amount of love they have for their children and what they're willing to do, not fully understanding yet, but, and the struggle to keep these kids alive is really, as much as it's painful, it's also some of the more beautiful things I've ever seen
Absolutely.
in my life, that just, you are mine to love, and I am going to support you, even though the world might not agree with me.
Yeah.
So when you were talking, you said that, these transgender people that we're afraid they'll leave and we'll never see them again. Why do you think it is so difficult for people to just fully listen and say, I hear you. I want to understand what you're experiencing, and I want to be there for you, and I want to love you without judgment?
Because they don't have nanas and grannies like us. And it is still too wildly unpopular societally, and this could be a lengthier discussion. And it is a polarizing and divisive and even political discussion sometimes about why that is. But just keeping it contained to the human experience, it's so foreign. Because I didn't grow up like that. A byproduct of the 70s and 80s? Are you kidding me? What? Like, the only trans people and drag queens, they're in Vegas, dude. Like, it's so foreign, I think, that it's difficult to even get there. But what I love about the situations, and contrast that, conversely, like, the horrific alternative to the parents and the families that aren't showing up on Wednesday.
Yeah.
For the reasons that we know why. But how beautiful that you have cultivated a place with all these amazing people, that they feel safe enough to come and explore that, because they are being pushed to their core. And that's why there's no judgment even for the parents, but there's something unique about that dynamic with a parent and child, because that has also been instilled since the dawn of time in the beginning of humanity. This is preservation of life. You hear it all the time. I don't know why I love them so much, but I do. And now all of a sudden, they're challenging your deepest, difficult views on gender and sexuality and what it means to be a human. And I don't get it. And I don't even actually agree with it. And I can't even get there. But I love you. And that's what's beautiful, is you're cultivating that and sharing those messages more and more so that it will be more accessible. And that's how I view that. So why? It's because of that. It's not even the realm of love. It doesn't compute. And you hear this many times of like, no, 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 no. It's biological discussion. It's about science, which you can dismantle those as well as any other argument on either side of the table. There's always going to be both sides to the coin. But for the ones where it's really painful, it's just not even accessible. And that's why I love sharing these messages and bringing awareness. At Enso, we make rings and bracelets and jewelry and watch bands and stuff. But especially with rings, in our culture, they're symbols. Symbols of our commitment, symbols of what we love, who we love. And so when we started creating these and drafting the ideas around what they wanted to look like or be, it was always the ring, this symbol, this commitment to those we love that could maybe use a little extra more love this time around. And that's what these are. That's what this ring is. That's what this bracelet represents. Yeah. And that's why we want to share that and use our platform to amplify your voice. And not only that, but even economically, that's why we donate the proceeds to help these causes. This is the Encircle bracelet and ring. And when people purchase these, we're donating to help the cause. Because it takes money. It takes money to build this stuff, to build organizations. There's a lot of people behind this. But it's a worthy endeavor in every sense of the word.
Well, I think too, having a business like Enso involved in Encircle, what it's telling these youth is you are cared about, you are loved, you can get a job at Enso someday, right? Like you are not outside of this community. You are within the circle of this community's love. You know, because that's what Encircles, I think what it's saying is let's expand the circles of love of ourselves, of our family, and our communities, and make sure that no one's ever outside of that circle of love. I never put the connection with the round of the rings and the bracelets, and also our message.
Yeah, beautiful parallels, beautiful metaphors. And we're really excited about that. We're rolling out wholesale programs where it'll be like a certified Pride store, and we'll be able to give them products that can help the Pride community that are also cool. Standalone. They're awesome things to be wearing and showing your support, or just even as a cool bracelet and ring, and then giving them some marketing stuff and stickers. So when you see this, you know that's a safe place to go in. You know that the staff will treat you with respect and love you from the bottom to the top. And it's these little things that will start to make a difference. And it permeates in society so that maybe 5, 10, 20 years from now, it is accessible for just about everybody, because it's not even a thing you can say, it's not this, or I can't see that, or I didn't grow up like this, and I've never heard of something like this. Because you will have at some point.
Right.
And we can all play our part in that, and that's why we're doing this.
Right. You know, and for me personally, I grew up in Orem, Utah, never left my bubble until I was 26, I believe.
And then you went to Layton.
And then I went to Layton, close to Layton. But leaving and meeting one gay man changed the whole entire trajectory of my life. And I think that's what we're trying to do here in these homes, is people come in the door, they get to know someone, and then your heart changes. You get to hear their stories. Maybe you learn a little bit about the wrong ideas that you've been told. And you meet this person, and I think everything changes. And I think that we all give each other permission to love better. And having leaders in our community, like you, saying, I stand with these kids. I build products around them. I am there for the queer individual. Gives someone else, like, maybe I should think of this differently. So thank you for what you do and being a voice and helping other people see each other better.
Absolutely. Thank you for what you do. You're so lovely. I felt that the first time we met, and everybody here, it's always such a great experience. I'm usually really emotional, but it sticks with me. It's so powerful. And yeah, it's also centered around, that's why I said what we embrace and have cultivated at Enso, That's extensions of who Aaron and I are. And it's similar to Encircle. Who's going to be upset about saying, can't we just love each other more? We might see things differently, very differently, worlds apart. But who's going to be upset about saying, I still love you? Can you try and get there? And that's why, for me, I'm not out to pick fights with anybody. I love everybody. I want everybody to have a good time while we're here. We're bouncing around with each other in this human experience. Why not have the best time we can? And that's that simple. The premise of my entire existence. So love yourself. You got to start there, because it makes it really damn hard to love others if you can't even love yourself.
100%.
Then you always start there. And what I've found over decades of exploring this, what just will naturally come is you will eventually be in tune with loving yourself. It becomes an extension that you now start sharing that with others when inspired or in tune or with your endeavors that you have going on in your life. But it makes it more accessible, which is why we keep both. Love yourself, love others. There are no sides, only love.